Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's edition of Advanced Bass Fishing, and really appreciate you guys making some time to check the video out and spend some time with me today. Really appreciate that. And guys, today I'm going to continue. I really like doing these sort of just relaxed, sitting in the chair talking about fishing with you guys, like sort of like if you guys were sitting with me here in the room, we'd just be having a talk about fishing, trying to share some information with you all that has helped me over the years and things that have worked for me. So today what I want to do is I want to talk about some things you can do to quickly find fish when you get on the lake or any place that you're fishing, because it's the thing about fishing, it's like once you get some basic skill levels, you're going to catch fish eventually. The only difference is how long it takes you to find those fish. Sometimes you can find them right off the bat when you get out there, and other times it may take you days. So I've got sort of a system that I've used for a long time that really helps me quickly get on the fish and be able to refine that pattern once I get onto it. So we're going to get into that in today's video. Also, guys, just a quick thank you. I want to let you guys know I really appreciate everybody that's hit that subscribe button here to Advanced Bass Fishing. We're really working really hard to get 10,000 subscribers. So much appreciated if you could hit that subscribe button. And also, guys, please check out my Tackle Warehouse link that I put in the description of this video. If you guys are using that link and bookmarking it for your tackle purchases, you're really doing a big part to support intuitive angling, and a big thank you for me and my family. So I want to let you guys know that. Okay, that's one of the things about bass fishing that I know, it's very frustrating to want to go catch bass and not be able to catch bass. I struggled with that for years, because back when I started, there wasn't any information. You couldn't get any info on how to find bass quickly. So more often than not, when I went fishing, I'd struggle. And it's like I'd watch these fishing shows like Jimmy Houston and Roland Martin and Bill Dance, and they'd be catching hogs every time they went out. Obviously, most of the time they were on private lakes. But, you wanted to do that so bad, and to get out on the lake and not catch them was pretty frustrating. So what I'm going to share with you guys today has taken me quite a few years to learn in terms of how to really cut down that time as far as locating those fish. So here's some things you can do with it. Now, a lot of it has to do with the body of water that you're fishing. The smaller the body of the water that you're fishing, most of the time, it's easier to get on the fish quicker. Say, for example, if you're fishing a big farm pond that you can cast across, you're going to be able to eliminate your options really quick. Or if you're on a smaller lake, like a 200 or 300 acre lake, it becomes more manageable and you can exhaust all the options quicker. But if you're on a typical larger man-made lake that is 5,000 acres or bigger, and a lot of the big lakes, the big famous lakes we have in the country here that you guys fish are 20,000, 30,000, 60,000 acres. And there's no way that you can cover all that. So one of the biggest intimidation factors, and one of the things that every angler has to do, is like when you get ready to go fishing, you have to decide where you want to go on that particular body of water. And this is the puzzle. This is the thing that it's like it's a decision-making process, and sometimes you make the right decisions, sometimes you don't make the right decisions based upon the assimilation of information and knowledge that you have. Because normally what happens is there's two things that I found out how most people start their day fishing, is they usually go to a place that they've heard somebody told them they're biting over there, or somebody told them it's a good area, or you have some type of a utilization in your seasonal patterns. Now, I highly encourage self-reliance in fishing, because the more self-reliant you are, the more that your success levels are going to grow, in leaps and bounds versus at a snail's pace. If you rely on somebody else to basically tell you where those fish are at, a lot of times, the learning process is a lot slower. So from a seasonal pattern standpoint, this is going to be a big factor in you landing on those fish quick. Now, but that's for another video. What I want to do is I want to give you some practical things that you can do once you've decided the place that you want to fish, the area that you want to fish on the lake, to really eliminate things that aren't working. So the first key that I think as far as finding these fish quick is you have to identify a part of the lake that has a good population of fish in it and has a diversity of options within it. Now that can be a lot of different things depending upon the time of the year. Say for example, you're fishing in the late summer and the fishing's tough and the water's low, you know, going to the upper reaches of the river arm of the lake or the creek arm of the lake and fishing some shallow water structure may be the best option. If you're fishing in the wintertime, water's cold, the lower end of the lake where it's clear may be better. So it depends on the time of the year that you're fishing, but you need to identify parts of the lake that have potential to catch a lot of fish. For the most part, now this isn't like one shoe fits all, but for the most part, the biggest populations of bass in any lake that you fish are going to be in the major creek arms. There's going to be a population living there all year long in those big creek arms. So one of the first things you can do to really get it going is look at your map on your lake and pick out maybe one or two of the biggest creeks on the lake and go into those particular areas and just tell yourself, I'm not going to worry about any other part of this lake. This lake may be 50,000 acres, but I'm in this little creek right here that maybe has, 1,000 acres of water in it. And just tell yourself mentally, it's like, okay, this is my lake right here. This little 1,000-acre creek arm is my lake. I'm no longer concerned with the other 49,000 acres that are out there. So the first thing you can do, save a lot of time, is once you get in that creek arm, make a pass through the whole creek without even fishing. Just like run your boat maybe 25 or 30 miles an hour, all from the mouth of the creek all the way to the back and back out, and take note of what you see. Take note of the predominant cover that's on the bank. Take note of the angle of the bank. Pay attention to your sonar to see, what kind of water depths you're talking about. Pay attention to if there's any water clarity changes, and sort of get a feel for how the creek lays out, because that gives you a good mental picture on how to do that. Now, another way that you can save time on this is before you go to the lake, take some time to go and check out Google Earth. Just download that Google Earth app, and you can zoom in on that creek arm, and you can actually see lay down trees on the bank. You can see boat docks, whatever covers there. So all that gives you a pretty good idea, before you start fishing. So the next thing you have to do is when you finally decide, okay, it's time to fish, and I've got this mental picture of what this creek arm looks like, and then you say, okay, here's my options. There's some secondary points in the creek. There's a few boat docks in the creek. There's quite a few lay down trees in the creek, and maybe there's some lily pads in the back end of it or something. You got several different options there. The first thing that you want to do is you want to fish the type of structure or the cover that is most predominant within that creek. So let's say in that creek arm you go into, there's 10 secondary points in there leading back into the coves. First thing you can do, guys, is get right on those secondary points. Secondary points, there's always bass living on them. It's probably one of the quickest ways you can find bass is to go to a secondary point in a major creek arm and start fishing that secondary point. Now, the technique that you fish with that could be a lot of different things. It depends on your water clarity, it depends on your water temperature, time of year, everything. So I can't, unless I go into seasonal patterns, I can't really tell you exactly the best technique to use, because if you go fishing right now in December, at the time of filming this video, that fishing a secondary point in December is going to be different than fishing it in May. So, that's one thing you'll have to develop with your seasonal patterns with the techniques, but start out fishing those secondary points. That's going to be probably one of the quickest ways that you can locate fish. The next thing you can do to locate them quickly, if you don't get them on that, which you probably will catch some fish on that, is try to look for any type of rock transitions within that particular creek arm. So most creeks are going to have a flat side and a steep side, unless you're on a natural body of water. Most man-made impoundments, that is. You're going to have some steep channel-type banks or bluffs, and then you're going to have the opposite side of the lake is going to be flat. Go down to those areas that have the steeper banks in there and look for those rock transitions to where the rock composition changes from one size to another. Or say, for example, you've got a bluff bank and it all of a sudden transitions into a chunk rock bank. Those transition areas are super high percentage areas. And this is another quick way to locate fish, is by going and just running those transition areas. So normally the way they do it, let's say, for example, I'm running down the creek and there's this bluff on my left. And I look down there and this bluff runs for maybe a quarter of a mile. and then it starts to flatten out and get some, chunk rock on it, changes, and there's some irregular features on it. I'll usually start fishing maybe at 200 yards, before that transition. I'll fish the transition spot exactly within 200 yards either side of it. There's a lot of fish moving up and down those rock transition banks. Next thing with that is identify what your predominant shallow water cover is. It could be lay down trees, it could be some logs in the water, it could be overhanging trees, it could be some boat docks, it could be maybe some riprap in there, maybe some, seawall, break walls. Identify what a predominant piece of cover is in there and start fishing that shallow cover. If you see some lay down trees, fish those lay down trees and docks. There's always bass on docks and lay down trees. Those are really good ways to get on them quick. And then you can pattern that type of stuff. One of the things about fishing shallow cover, like shallow wood, lily pads, boat docks, riprap areas like that, those are really good pattern areas. So most of the time, let's say if the creek arm you're fishing has got 4 or 5 stretches of riprap in there, and you pull up and catch some fish on one of the ripraps, you're going to be able to do that on the other ones. Same with the boat docks. Most of the time, if you catch a fish or two off a boat dock, you're going to be able to duplicate that pattern. That is what is called pattern fishing. And the other areas I was talking about, like the rock transitions and the secondary points, those aren't really pattern type places. They're more like just spots. So the main thing how you get on these fish quick is by identifying the type of cover that you're fishing and experimenting, trying a little bit of every bit of that piece of cover. And then also, once you do fish the predominant cover that's in there, one of the next things you can do if you're catching them or not catching them is make some type of bait change or color change and try to maximize that particular area. Now, here's another tip I'll give you guys, like on fishing a secondary point. Let's say that you pull up and fish this secondary point and you throw out there with a football head jig and 10 foot of water, and you catch 2 bass on a football head jig. And then you fish for another 15 or 20 minutes without a bite. If you catch a fish or two off of a point, more than likely there's a school of fish on that point. So don't leave it until you've exhausted your technique. So instead of leaving after a half hour of catching 2 fish on a football head jig, stay on that point and throw out like a shaky head or a Ned rig, some type of a different profile. Maybe throw out a topwater or crankbait or swim bait, whatever is applicable at the time. So once you find an area that you are getting a few bites in, it's really important not to leave those fish. You've heard the saying out there about don't leave fish to find fish. There's a lot of truth to that. And one of the things I learned from my buddy Aaron Martins that passed away a few years ago is that Aaron was an expert at maximizing an area. It's like if he pulled up on a point and he caught 1 or 2 fish on a point, he may stay there for 3 or 4 hours and try everything. He may try 20 different baits on that point. So don't leave the fish until you've exhausted all the options there. So anyway, that's just a few things off the top of my head, guys, that might help you out. Main thing about it is, don't try to bite off too big of a part of the lake. Try to, get into one part of the lake and fish everything that's in there. And it's a good way to find them quick. So hope it helps out.